Hey there, game devs. Just a quick note. The audio quality in this episode is not that great, and I did the best I can to edit it. My apologies. I still highly encourage you to stick around because the content in this one is so amazing. I hope you enjoy. Time to learn and take action in game devs. Tony Chan here, and welcome to episode 63 of Game Dev Loadout, where I chat with the best people in our industry to learn how they got started, the obstacles they face, and the tools they use for success. And now let's chat with today's featured guest, Alexandra Lucas. Alexandra, it is game time. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. She is the content writer for Microsoft Cortana GCS team and game writer for Immersed Games. She writes a dialogue, design characters, and develop quest arc for educational MMO-RPG. She is also the podcast host at Cheat Codes Entertainment and does consultants at SoYouWantToMake.Games. Go ahead, Alexandra. Give us a bit about your personal life and how you got started in the game industry.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for asking. Actually, a couple years ago, I was in law school, and I was very miserable. And a friend of, figured it was not a good fit. And a friend of mine invited me to go to GDC, the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. And, you know, it's a week-long event where you meet folks making amazing stuff and just, like, you know, moving the world forward in significant ways through games. And I withdrew from law school the day I got back. Then I applied to DigiPen Institute of Technology, and I studied game design there. And DigiPen has a lot of great networking, and they teach you some really important game development skills. And then, just a quick thing, I won the Platinum Award in the GDC Game Narrative Review competition twice. And that allowed me to do some incredible networking with writers, which writing is what I wanted to do, of course. And so that's just led to, you know, lots of different opportunities. And I had my first game job with a mobile studio, so I got to get my feet wet there. And then, of course, I work for Microsoft Cortana now and do, and then part-time work for Immersed, as you mentioned, and speak at conferences and things. And I publish, I have a chapter in a book coming out in November. The book is called Digital Love, Romance and Sexuality in Games, and my chapter is about how Mass Effect's Asari were created looking to the triple goddess paradigm, a construction in literature. So anyway, I really like gender studies issues and romance and sexuality in games. So that is my core focus and what I've kind of built my career on. Yeah.
Now, first off, what made you like to transition from like the law school to game design? Cause I think that's like a very big transition. Like, what were you already into games before you started the law school? Like, how do you make that transition? Oh
yeah, I definitely was playing games. I'd never even thought about making them, and I hadn't thought about sort of the power that games hold is to influence, you know, our society and our culture. And it, you know, seeing talks at GDC where people were talking about, helping people develop empathy and changing how people approach problems, that sort of thing, just really inspired me. I knew, okay, I do want to change the world. That is the thing I want to do. But I'd rather do it in an environment that allows me to be more creative in the ways that I want to be creative. So.
Yeah, and what's awesome now is like you're talking about like bringing the girls to games and sexuality. Like, is that still like a very touchy topic now, or is it like, are people okay with that? I know the mainstream media, I guess, are not hardcore on that yet. I don't know what's the word for it, but like, what's the overall take on those type of subjects?
The first essay I wrote for that competition I mentioned, I focused on romance and sexuality in Dragon Age Origins. And I gotta tell you, I mean, people were talking to me at the conference nonstop about it. Like, it was incredible to see, and that was in 2015. And it was incredible to see just the variety and amount of people who are interested in those topics. And it's, the prevailing sentiment I got was, oh, I can't believe there's someone else who cares about this. But a lot of us really care about it. And games and game narrative in particular that are really advancing to the point where it's our responsibility, really, to address those sorts of things. We're capable. It's not, our focus in games these days is not about functionality. It's about, okay, what are we doing with the power we have? You know, we can build a lot. We have so many tools. So it's not quite about just making the thing, but making the thing good. And it's improving for women, certainly, but there are concerns. There are still some systemic issues, especially related to women breaking in and then women staying in, because a lot of studio cultures are not as supportive as they could be of some of the needs that are specific to women, and underrepresented folks in general.
Yeah, thank you for standing up for that, because I do believe everybody should be equal in terms of trying to join the game industry, and it sucks that females have a harder time getting into the game industry, and that's really unfortunate. So it's cool that shedding some light on that as well. So now let's go ahead and talk about your expertise. What do you consider your main area of expertise as of today?
Yeah, so my core focus is really on the writing piece. Narrative designers and writers are slightly different. Writers are really focused on the dialogue piece, kind of doing what you would imagine of more traditional writers, like screenwriters say. And then narrative designers are more focused on designing the overall experience. So typically they work with technical tools a bit more complex and actually implement a lot of the writing pieces. So I really focus on writing dialogue is really big for me. Designing NPCs that, for Immersed Games, we really make sure they are diverse from all over the world, all different backgrounds, ages, sexual orientations. And then again, my expertise both on the Cortana team and then in the game dev I do is really on making sure that we are approaching gender and sexuality in a healthy way that moves us all forward.
Gotcha. So let's touch upon game writing. Like, what is something we don't know about game writing that we should?
Something really important to know about game writing is it is very different from normal writing. I know I kind of said the tasks seem similar, but the very big difference between game writing and again, traditional screenwriting or novel writing is the interactive piece. So you really have to think about not only, is the story I'm trying to communicate good, but anticipate how your players are going to want to interact with it, and that there could be a huge variety of ways. And then you also have to incorporate technical limitations, right? Like character limits are always a thing, attention span limits are always a thing. So there are a lot of different factors that you kind of have to work in when you're working with game writing, but it all comes, so, when folks ask me, what should I have in my portfolio? It's one of the key things to have is, like a game entwine or an Inkle writer, something like that folks checking out your work can see, okay, does this person understand the interactive piece?
I'm curious, what was the hardest game dialogue you had to write?
So this was difficult at the time, I guess. Now that I've done it, right? After you've done it for me here, but at the time, the most challenging thing I had done a while ago or that I've done recently is writing a gender-neutral character. But so for the writing I do for Immersed Games, the game is for kids, and they're targeting kind of the homeschool audience, which is typically a bit more conservative. And so it's just a sort of situation where we can't flat out say this character is gender neutral. So that's just sort of what the situation is. And so it was interesting to find creative solutions to that, things like when other characters are talking about this person, they use they and them instead of he, him, she, her, she, that sort of thing. So, and just having discussions about what is your style rather than what is your gender. So a big part of it is, and also not assuming, that they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend necessarily. It's just really trying to take gender to language out of the conversation.
That's interesting. Why would they want to, I guess, take it all out together? I don't see, what could be the point, I guess, or what's the reasoning behind that? Because that would to me, that would sound like the character would be really boring or something like that. Does the character still have a lot of emotions to him, or what makes the character stand apart? If
Oh, good question. Yeah, they absolutely do. I think the point of including, they have motivations and goals and feelings just like anyone else. And I think the goal of including a character like that is to show, hey, our thoughts about gender being a binary, so just men and women, right, are, excluding a lot of people who don't identify that way.
Oh.
And so I think that's power of games comes in, right, to like normalize that.
I understand. I got you. Okay, that makes more sense. And now, in terms of game writing, what are other common mistakes that you see even pro level people make?
I think something that folks could improve on for sure is seeking out the stories of underrepresented folks, and even better than that, consulting with those people or hiring with those people. So, for instance, if you want to tell a story about a woman coming of age, or if you want to tell a story about someone who's transgender, you should absolutely be talking with someone who has lived that experience, right? Like a really big thing that BioWare did for Dragon Age Inquisition is they developed a transgender character, Gren. This is the first openly transgender character in game for them. I think they have one or two folks in their comics. But anyway, in order to make sure Krem was good, they consulted with folks who were trans and made sure, their first draft, they openly admitted in an article I read. But once they got, the consultant's opinion in there, who'd actually been through it, then, they fixed it. I really think if you watch, their compilations of all Krem scenes on YouTube, and if you watch them, you can tell it's done so well. A big problem that folks run into with those types of stories is that they sort of tokenize, or they have stereotypes in mind that, are sort of approximations of what that experience is like, but not the real thing, and maybe not treating the subject as sensitively as they could. So, but studios, like I said, BioWare,
Yeah, that's like a great research right there, and that brings more oh my god, I can't pronounce that word. Authenticity.
Authenticity. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my brace is like messing up my wording right now. But yeah, it's more true to the character, I guess you could say. It's much more true to them. I appreciate them even more for going to the length of doing that research to get that true to it.
Yeah, it just again it normalizes folks having that experience, right? Because it makes sure they are real people, shown as real people, and then I think it helps with immersion as well, because again, you're playing in a world that is similar to our world, at least in some ways.
Definitely. Now, overall, what are your key principles for better game writing?
Again, I think it's really important to seek out other media for inspiration. A lot of us can get sort of tunnel vision, and it's just all about games all the time. But I've come up with some really interesting ideas and really cool directions to take stories into that I never would have thought of if I hadn't, pursued interesting movies and literature that I, kind of had to force myself to read because I wouldn't have naturally been drawn to it. So I think making sure you have diverse, look at diverse media and then have kind of different interests and hobbies is just so important, because I think there's the temptation to sort of tell the same story over and over again because it has sold in the past. But I really do think people are itching for new stories and new approaches. And yeah, looking at other media is a great inspiration for that. And then another thing is you just have to write. And it doesn't, that's so basic and obvious, but it's really the only way to get better. And then you start building your portfolio as well, which you absolutely need when you're applying for jobs and things.
Aside from the video games, what other medias do you take inspiration from specifically? Like, is there like a piece of art that just gives you a lot of motivation and you bring it back to games or something like that?
I really try to have variation. I don't know. I just like acquiring a lot of different information to me personally, but I watch a lot of sort of classic films just to get, a different perspective on a different time in our country and even in other countries, right? And then I read a good amount of literature written by underrepresented folks, so women and people of color, to get a look at experiences that I haven't had. And then I consume a crazy amount of TV, but it's but it's things like, Black Mirror, right? And The Handmaid's Tale, things that make you think, that force you to think about the world as it is in the way it should be. But I would, seek out things that are difficult, right, that are going to challenge you emotionally and mentally and really force you to turn over concepts. And it can be exhausting, right? Like, and some entertaining just for escape, and that's fine. But, if you're going to set aside that time, like you were saying, like treat it as research and development, just like you would, practicing writing or making a small prototype of something. It's the same level of worthwhile work.
Now, speaking of challenging and exhausting and, doing tons of research, I want to get more personal now. Like, what was the worst moment of your career? That one moment that's still vivid in your mind? Be very detailed and tell us that personal story.
All right. So my very first, professional game writing job, I worked for a studio for several months. And then the project I was hired to work on was canceled, so suddenly there was no job for me. And, it was getting game writing jobs was very difficult, and at least in sort of the traditional sense, and we can talk a bit more about that later, but, I felt very lost and very disappointed, and even though it wasn't something under my control, I still, you feel like, studio closures and dropped projects and things happen all the time in game dev, which is something we could improve for sure, but it is just sort of part of the industry right now. And so I learned, I kind of toughened up from that, and I just kept pursuing freelance contracts and networking hard and applying to speak at conferences and to publish papers. And, the more you put yourself, it really is a numbers game, I'll say. Like, the more you apply to things and put yourself out there, the more opportunities are really just going to come your way. And so it's key to just keep hustling, keep learning new things, new skills, and then being kind to others, because the game industry is very small. And so it's just, it's important to be supportive of others in all things, and particularly when you're critiquing other games and stuff, to be aware that a lot of work went into every single game that's out there. And, I've made mistakes, but I definitely do my best to do those things.
I love that, because you basically was out of job, man. I felt that way before when I just didn't have a job and I felt lost. But like you stayed persistent. Like, you kept going out there, putting yourself out there, building your portfolio. And I love what you say. Like, you just gotta hustle. You have to hustle. You shouldn't really wait for something to come to you. You gotta go out there and get it. And what do you want to make sure a game does that, like, have a similar situation like you, where they just feel lost? They have the skills to make a game, but they don't know where to go, what to do. And like, what do you want to make sure a game does take away from that experience?
I would say, again, really try to internalize the fact that it's not your fault. It's not unique to you. It doesn't have, odds are, depending on the circumstances, but in general, when like just mass layoffs happen or a studio closes or something, that's just, typically independent of you. So it's not a reflection on your skills. So it's hard to, when you're upset and you're in the moment, it's hard to remember that, but I think that's a really important step. And then also, this falls under the, resources game dev should use. If you're not already using gamedevmaps.org or orcahq.com, those are great places to find short and long-term positions in the game industry. So, and there's always new stuff popping up there, so just keeping an eye on that is important. Attending conferences is a great way to, not only get your ideas out there, and people will notice, but also to kind of keep your hand in it, in the game industry. If you're feeling like, I don't have a job right now, am I even relevant? And that's a great way to just make sure folks keep you in mind when opportunities come up, right? And also investing time in being on social media, because especially if you follow folks, like say on Twitter, who do what you want to do, or who are notorious for keeping track of opportunities, then you'll be there, you'll be ready when they come up. And speaking to that, the last piece is your resume and LinkedIn and website need to be ready to go at all times.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. So like when, opportunities pop up and it's like, oh, the thing is due tomorrow, the application's due tomorrow. If you have nothing ready to go, that's not possible, right? And you just let it go by. But if you have everything ready or you just need to make small tweaks, then yeah, you can take advantage of it, right? So it's worth the invest. I mean, I've spent over 1,000 hours on my website alone, but now, when I edit it, it's just a quick little edit and I can trust that it all looks good and clean and how I want it to. So.
Yeah, all great advice. Yeah, invest in yourself, get that social media, be ready with your resume, put yourself out there, go to conferences, network. What do you think it's like in terms of game writing and narrative design? What's like the worst advice do you see or hear being told in your world?
I'd say the spamming all possible openings, right? Because there aren't a ton of game writing and narrative design positions out there. They are out there, but at a given time, if you look at orcahq.com, that job site I mentioned, maybe there will be 10 in the United States total, or maybe that includes Canada, and that's 10 positions versus like hundreds, if not like 1,000 people applying for each one, and so the odds are really tough there, but it's because they're so critical and so looking for the absolute perfect fit, it is not worth your time to apply to all of them. And when I say that it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of those openings require writing samples, and some of them require very specific writing samples. And so I think it's a really quick way to wear yourself down and get down on yourself. So you're writing like a bunch of 10-page writing samples for all these different studios, and not necessarily getting the results you want. It's better, I think, to invest the extra energy and effort into 2 or 3 that you're really passionate about, and it'll show in the writing for sure.
Yeah, something that suits you. That makes a perfect sense. What have you changed your mind about in the last few years, and why in the game industry?
The past kind of right as I was studying at Digipen and starting to break in and things, Gamergate happened. And it's one of those specters that's sort of always haunting women and underrepresented folks in games. And that was I was not personally attacked, but I know a lot of women who were, and it just sort of breaks my heart because before that happened, the gender ratio has always been skewed towards men in the game industry, and it's getting better. But I never felt in danger. Until that Gamergate started. And of course, plenty of women are still dealing with doxing and certain things, depending on what the mob feels like that day. So I guess I'd say that's the huge problematic thing that I've witnessed in the past couple of years. But something amazing that's come out of that is, women in game dev really support each other. And also a lot of men out there and non-binary folks and all that are really supportive. 9 times out of 10, my male colleagues are all about promoting the ideals of women and all that. So, and even like on the Cortana team, a big part of why I was hired is because of my sensitivity to issues pertaining to sexism and gender discrimination and LGBTQ plus concerns. So, that is, I think a lot of folks recognize that supporting underrepresented voices is the future. So it gets better.
Real quick, give us a bit of story behind a Gamersgate, if you don't mind.
What kicked it off is a woman dev ended a relationship with a male dev, and he responded by, publishing a blog post that had a lot of revealing information in it, and certain people, the folks who participated in Gamergate, decided that was grounds to attack her digitally. So sending her rape threats and, review bombing her work, and to the point where she needed to leave her home. And then also, the same people tried to twist it into, integrity in games journalism for reasons it's just part of the story. You can go read it. I don't want to get too much into that, but yeah, it's just that sort of stuff. Or another female dev was supposed to speak at a college campus, and they had to call it off because bomb threats were called in.
That's just so unfortunate. Like, I'm like getting angry just, just remembering how GamerGate went about, and it just makes me angry that there's so much, like, well, I don't see what's wrong with that. I guess, some males or just online in general is really mean and toxic, but the way they attack females is just so wrong. It's so bad. And so I'm with you. I'm definitely for girls or anybody in general to join the game industry. It's just, it shouldn't be like inequality or anything like that going on. It's the 21st century, so the podcast is getting a bit political, but still, that's what I think.
I could not possibly agree more. And it warms my heart to hear you say that. So much appreciated.
You got my vote. And now that you're more experienced and better now, like, what do you think was the best investment you've made? And it can be investment of money, time, or energy. And how did you decide to make that investment?
So I touched on this a little bit, but the two main things that I've invested in that have really paid off as far as my career development goes, just my enjoyment of life, is my really leveling up with my social media management. And then also my portfolio management, right? So I already mentioned, like, I keep my materials ready to go, so that I can easily apply to jobs and other opportunities. And then I've also gotten to do a lot of cool stuff because I'm really active on social media. So, I think it's valuable to invest the time in learning, when to post things, like times of day, depending on what platform it is too, and really understanding what each platform is for. And I think it's also important to just commit to maybe 2 or 3 platforms. There's so many out there, it can be overwhelming. So I've committed to Facebook and Twitter as my core ones. With Twitter, that means I've maintained relationships with folks I never would have met otherwise. I have a good colleague in Australia. We submitted a GDC talk together, and we've never met in real life, but we follow each other's work and respect each other. And Twitter is another great place to make connections with folks who work at studios that you want to work at. So I've had experiences where I was interviewing somewhere and I could just, send them a DM, ask them questions, and they were happy to, 9 times out of 10, folks are happy to help. You just have to ask. And there's such kind of shyness about asking about that sort of thing. But if you build up, you follow each other, you comment on each other's posts and tweets, like, you build that relationship. And it's just not, tweet 140 characters. It's not hard, but it's important to be thoughtful and positive and uplifting in all things. That's another important piece of the social media bit. And also, I am a hardcore introvert. So networking used to be just sort of a stressful thing or a stressful concept for me, and I know it is for a lot of folks who are in game dev. A lot of us are introverts, and a great way to get around that is to really keep an eye on your social media and pay attention to what other people are doing. Like, I'm at the point where I scan Facebook so much and Twitter so much that anytime I run into one of my contacts, someone in my network, I can immediately talk to them about, congrats on your new house, or how's that project that you've been doing. Right? And then there's never any stress because you immediately have something to talk about.
Hey, what's cool is so Kaplan's birthday was just recent, and I told him happy birthday, and I think something as simple as that will get people's attention. You're saying congratulations to the person's new house. Like, people appreciate something like that, I believe. Like, they like compliments or things like that of that nature.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, like you said, focus on 2 or 3 social media, get your name out there. People have to know who you are and what you're doing, especially if you want to make a new game and advertise it to the world as well.
Absolutely.
Now, what was the greatest idea you have to date, like an aha moment?
I think, so I recently spoke at PAX Dev, and I talked about how I think I mentioned, the chapter I wrote for that book that's coming out in November, I based the talk I gave on that, but the connection I made there was kind of a cool aha moment, I guess, for me. So the triple goddess paradigm is from literature and mythology, right? And so that's the maiden mother throne. And then I realized that the Asari have 3 life stages, and they are Maiden, Matron, and Matron. They look very similar, except the Asari ones aren't really focused on women's relationships to men, which the traditional construction is. Instead, they're focused on discovering who you are, essentially. And so that was just a cool moment for me as as a writer and as a researcher to connect those dots as far as, what the writing team is probably doing. They created the Asari. So.
Nice. And you got that off a connection, you say?
Yeah, it was a really weird thing. I have a colleague who I do a lot of work with, and we were talking about the triple goddess thing as a concept of it. We were talking about a Doctor Who episode, and then it just sort of dawned on me, oh my gosh, I've seen this before, which we see it in a lot of literature and media, right? But like, oh no, I've seen this in Mass Effect. It's right there. How could I not have known? Yeah, but that comes from, if you're watching Doctor Who, that's some other media.
There you go, the outside word for inspiration. Now that the game industry is like booming now, what are you most excited about today?
Oh man. So like I said, I do think the future is in getting the voices of underrepresented folks out there. And we're seeing games that are not only embracing that, but they're popular, right? Like Life is Strange. Crazy. And then even in Dragon Age Inquisition, right, you had that openly trans character. We're finding that not only are these stories getting made, but they are welcome, which is great. And it only serves to, again, immersion is better, I think, and broaden your player base as well. So I'm just I think the future is everyone playing games. I think as they should. And then a lot of people are learning to code from a very young age now. And so I am looking forward to a future in which folks don't have to spend time working jobs they don't enjoy and have a lot more time. Being creative is just a normal part of life. Like no matter what your skills are, it is so fulfilling to make something that you're proud of and that you use skills that you worked on. And I think there has been this idea that, only certain types of people get to be creative, but everyone is in one way or another, and it's just a matter of having the tools and the encouragement to do that.
Yeah, and now that the tools are free, everybody's open. Like you say, even a kid can now program a game and make a game. So there's like no excuses. And the thought of like everybody in the future playing games now, especially with the mobile games on the rise and people playing Pokemon Go, AR, and like the community coming together and playing. It's just really exciting to see what's going to happen in the future, like how it's going to grow and more people playing. Even like my wife, she plays a ton of mobile games now. I think she's been playing more games than me the past few months because I've been focused on the podcast and stuff. So it's really exciting to see.
Yeah, it's great that more people and different types of people are starting to be welcome to the game space. Even, going as far to make things more accessible for folks who don't have full mobility or who are colorblind, that kind of thing. There's increasing sensitivity to those needs, which is just great.
Yeah. Like, I don't remember what game what it was, but like someone was able to play a game, like even though they had like no hands or if they were colorblind, like there's like a way to, options to let the person that's colorblind to play the game naturally, something like that. Like I think Naughty Dog's one of them where they were able to let disability people play their game somehow. And I think like just opening up that option for everybody to play is just really cool.
Yeah, it's great. Especially it's good to see studios aren't thinking of it necessarily as, so much extra work. It's just part of the development process to have those things in mind, increasingly, not for everyone, but for studios that have the resources.
What is the one game that influenced you the most and why?
So that's a great question, and that would be Dragon Age Origins. And so part of it is it was the first game I played as an adult. I kind of had a weird gap from age, 13 to 23, or not, to 23 when I just didn't play a ton of games, like a little bit of Civilization and maybe a few other like puzzle agent point and click type stuff. But Dragon Age Origins was the first, major RPG thing that I dove into, and I just got completely lost in it. Like a week of my life went by. I don't know where it went. But, the characters felt like real people. That was the thing that really got me. Because of all the dialogue options and the very distinctive personalities that each party member had, I felt like they were real friends, to the point where when I finished the game, I cried because it was like I had to say goodbye to my friends. It was a very intense experience, and it made me realize, I hadn't left law school yet by that point, but it started me thinking, like, if I could make people feel just like a grain of sand of what this game made me feel, I'll feel even a little bit what Dragon Age Origins made me feel. I would consider my career a success.
That moment where you make someone emotionally cry for a game. Yeah, that'd be really cool. So it'd be cool if someone like post that up on social media of like how emotional they feel about a certain game you made. Like that'd be a great compliment right there, for sure.
Oh yeah, that's. I really should reach out to them and just say it. I guess that's another great thing about social media, right? You can like let companies and specific devs know great things they're doing. We definitely need more of that. It's a great idea.
Oh yeah, I'm a big introvert myself, but I'm starting to like use social media more. And that's actually was one of my plans, is to reach out to like games that I loved back in the days and just say, hey, thank you for this game. It was a huge inspiration for me. And I'm gonna start like. Cause I think, game developers, they need more, appreciation. I need to show them more appreciation for all the things they did. Cause they game developers create amazing stuff. And I love to show that I'm grateful for them for making those games.
That's great to hear. They're gonna be really happy. I'm sure. 100% sure.
Awesome. The show isn't over yet, Game Devs. We have reached a crunch time. Yes, the phase that is dreaded, but we are here to overcome it. Basically, Alexandra, I will ask you quick questions and you'll be giving us a ton of valuable information in return. Are you ready to crush it and release the show?
Okay, let's do it.
What was holding you back from joining the game industry?
People try to tell me that there was only one right way to be a writer in games and tech, and that path was so impossible that it wasn't worth trying. And, to be clear, it is really difficult, but like I've said, you have to be advertising yourself, networking, and improving your skills. But if you keep putting yourself out there and making great stuff, opportunities come along. I never saw the podcast I host now coming. I never thought of working on a digital assistant. Didn't think my skills, that job didn't exist when I was studying game design and writing. So, and the more you put yourself out there and create good stuff, the more people want to work with you, and also the more people are inspired by you. So, you get to always keep discovering interesting things and sharing them with others, which is so fulfilling.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. You did not let that person hold you back. You just went out there and keep going, and a lot more opportunities open up for you as a result. And that is so cool. What's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
So beyond the social media investment, right? That's like, it's a daily thing for me. That has been really important. But also, speaking out other media, really good habits, doing that regularly. But something really important that I do that I think, again, like, so that's your introverted struggle with a little bit, is making sure you're having challenging and meaningful conversations with other devs, and even with other folks who do creative things, but not necessarily in games, because that's a great opportunity to turn over ideas and think about things from different angles that you just couldn't think of by yourself, or in your own head. I think there's a limit to what you can come up with on your own, and having those other perspectives and those other ways of thinking to get you thinking differently. I've come up with so many ideas just that I got from talking with other people about concepts I was already excited about.
Oh, do you still consider yourself an introvert?
I am, in that, interacting with people in person in social spaces is draining for me. I don't find it stressful anymore, no, because again of that social media investment, and a great thing about the game dev community is everyone is so excited about working on games and about changing the world with games, I think. And so, it still is pretty energizing. Packed dev, right? After that, I had so many ideas and started working on so many new projects. It's exciting to hear about what other people are working on and thinking about.
Yeah, and that's why I encourage game devs to go out there and network, because when you share your ideas with other people and they share theirs with you, you just feel more energized and more motivated, and you could like create a team there if you network with the right people. So I always encourage that, network with people, and you got to put yourself out there and just make meaningful relationships. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Aside from just making sure that you are positive in all of your kind of public-facing interactions, talk about that with the social media piece. Wow. As far as developing a career in narrative design and writing goes, a couple of things that I've been encouraged to do that I feel like have really helped move my career forward. One is kind of obvious, but making sure you have an intelligent and strong Twitter presence, and by that I mean all of your tweets are well thought out and show what you stand for and what you're passionate about, because they're checking to see, can you express yourself clearly in just 140 characters, which is hard, and so every time I tweet or post on Facebook, I really think through when I'm writing, even with that really short tweet. And also, you have to always be advertising yourself, and that can seem a little tiresome, but if you're always working on projects, I post about speaking at conferences, and I post about writing that's getting published, and I also amplify other people. So like if a colleague of mine is going to be at some conference, I'll retweet it, right, just to show that solidarity. And then just two other quick things for advice for writers and narrative designers is I can't emphasize enough how important it is to apply to speak at conferences and to get published. Because, again, they're trying to narrow down candidates from a huge pool, and then a quick way for them to do that is, okay, has this person ever been published? Has this person ever shipped a game? Has this person ever spoken at a conference? Getting selected to speak at a conference is a big deal. I mean, it's a free, expensive ticket, and it's acknowledgement that what you have to say is important and it's valuable that it's coming from you. So, and again, I just think those things are numbers. Nothing is guaranteed. You never know what's going to happen, but if you don't even apply, you never know.
What's cool that you just mentioned that is like, I actually envisioned myself in the future talking at one of these conferences. I'm not exactly sure about what, but I'm assuming it's going to be like about what I'm doing right now, which is inspiring and motivating new game developers and giving them advice on how to get started and stuff like that. So I actually envision myself doing that in the future. I have a quick question about the Twitter. Is it okay to, I guess, get a little political or talk about, so I sometimes talk about my little baby, I have a 4-month-old, and I sometimes bring her up sometimes just for fun, like a funny picture or something. I guess, how do you pick and choose, would it be good for your Twitter audience? Or should I create a separate account or something?
As far as creating a separate account goes, that's your comfort level, I think. You could have one that's for a studio or an LLC or something you're running and stick to more professional stuff there, and then have your own personal one. But a really big thing that Twitter is ultimately for is to communicate your personality and your values but it is in a public space, right? So you have to be really aware of that, and think about what your comfort levels are. So before I established myself as someone who has a lot to contribute in the realms of, romance and sexuality and LGBTQ plus concerns, I didn't necessarily feel comfortable posting, back then, forward movement, marriage equality and stuff, that type of thing, because, it's hard to fight unconscious bias. So even if studios and hiring managers, I don't think they actively want to discriminate. But, you don't want to give any studio any reason to say no to you. But once you establish what you stand for, though, and what you can contribute and what you want to do, I think, as long as you keep it all positive, right? So, for instance, I would retweet something about supporting Planned Parenthood, right? But I'm not going to tweet something like, oh, that's stupid, something, right? That's not... First, that's just not cool, and then second, you want to communicate that you are positive and energetic and passionate, and not that you're going to be a downer or make other people feel uncomfortable in the office.
Definitely spread that positive vibe. Now, for what resources should like game writers and native designers use?
The social media, of course, I'm going to keep hitting on that forever. Then, the job hunting sites I mentioned a little bit earlier, so gamedevmaps.org and oraclehq.com are great. And then there are Facebook groups that you can join. There's a game writers Facebook group. It's 1,000 people, and there's something that people are always posting short-term contracts in there. And, also, it's important to just join Facebook groups related to what you want to, maybe to who you are a bit. So there are a bunch of women in games groups that I'm in that they'll specifically post there if they're looking for candidates. So there are a lot of other places beyond Reddit where you can get opportunities, especially on Facebook and Twitter. And then attending conferences, I can't really emphasize that enough. But especially GDC is, oh man, I've made so many great contacts there, and I've managed to do that. Through winning that writing competition for 2 years, a lot of great networking there, and the writing community actually really wants to welcome people in, but you have to be there, to meet people and have them, know who you are. And then also GD has volunteer corps, so conference associate program, for that for 2 years. And that network is incredible. So after you successfully volunteer for 1 year, you are forever in the conference associate family. And folks who've been CAs work at every major studio. Like I can honestly say I know someone who works at every major studio because of the conference associate program. So I can always ask what sort of jobs you have going and advice on things. And it's just assumed like, oh yeah, you're one of us. I will help you. So that's great. And then I'll say a couple of scholarships for GDC that are out there. So for students, the IGDA, the International Game Developers Association, and WIGI both have scholarships for students. You just write a couple essays and explain, why you being there is going to move your career forward as a student in a future game dev. And the WIGI one is limited to women identifying folks. And then there's the I Need Diverse Games Scholarship, which is for underrepresented folks who couldn't otherwise afford to go to GDC. You get a free, all-access ticket, which is very cool. And you write about how you are promoting diversity and how you will do so if you get to attend GDC. And then the last one is a program that I did last year, the Amplifying New Voices program. And there's a career development boot camp that goes with it. And the day before GDC, you get a free all-access ticket. And again, that's another amazing network. Like a bunch of established game devs ran that workshop, and then I have a couple folks who are really close friends, or good friends now, who are both 10+ year veterans of Blizzard who I never would have met otherwise. So it's just all these programs. You're constantly expanding your network and getting more inspiration from different places.
Wow. Ton of resources, ton of tools, ton of conferences. Game devs, you gotta utilize these resources that she just talked about. So thank you so much for that. And now the next question is a bit of a doozy. So take your time if you need to. Imagine you woke up the next morning in a brand new world and you knew no one. You still have all the experience and knowledge you currently have today. Your food and shelter is taken care of and you have a laptop. What would you do step by step on the path to become a successful game developer in the game industry?
First, I would focus on the social media and the portfolio pieces, right? Things that I can control. So getting my portfolio together means being prepared for those jobs, right? Like we talked about. And then social media, I would start just following, so Twitter, for instance, following folks who do the things I want to do. So that Google searches, I guess, to find out who those people are and, start commenting on their posts, especially if their tweets, if they're talking about things that I am also excited about. Joining those Facebook groups that I mentioned and starting to kind of have a presence there. Also seeing what networks I'm in that are not game related, if we're allowed to have those in this area. So, I would probably post to or tap into my college network, not to defend my guests, but I went to Wellesley, my BA, so probably just look to connect with some folks there who are in tech. And also, perhaps the most important thing is I would create projects for myself. And that's part of the portfolio building piece, but it's also this sense that you are putting your skills into motion and you are doing practice. It is so important. And sign up for a game jam, right, where it forces you to make it really quickly and meet other people who are doing that.
There you go, Game Devs. She just gave you the roadmap to become a successful game developer. We have reached the end. Go ahead and give us a parting piece of guidance and how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Oh, great. As far as the final piece of advice goes, just be persistent, connect with other people. Game dev is very difficult, and also the job hunt's really hard. It's going to wear on you, so really think about what kind of energy you have, what kind of resources. Just try to accurately evaluate from there. You're not a failure if it takes a while or if you're struggling, and keep good, positive people around you to support you through it. So I'd love to chat. And you can also check out the podcast that I host, which is cheatcodespodcast.com, or of course, in the App Store and in the podcast repository on your phone. So I'd love it if you gave it a listen.
Awesome. Game Devs, check her out. She's doing so many great things for the game industry. Alexandra, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And for that, we are truly grateful. And we will catch you next time. Thank you for listening, Game Devs, and remember that knowledge is only potential power. Execution is the game. Go check out my website at GameDevLoader.com for all the show notes and resources. If you want to listen to more inspiring stories and help the show grow, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your fellow colleagues. Until then, keep on making great games, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye.